Hello and welcome to the Semi-Oddular sampling bay. Big thank you again to Rodrigo and the crew for getting this set up for us today. So right now I'm going to show you how I prepare audio files for sampling. You'll see over here I've got Logic Pro open, and this is our audio recording from the other day when we were building all of these patches. So the first thing that I need to do is to go ahead and isolate the area where I was working on the actual sounds. So this is our very first sound right here, and I'm just going through and deleting what we do not need. And the key command here for doing this is Command T for trimming the audio files. So this is our Matriarch King Saw sound. This is our King Square sound. This is our King Triangle sound. So now I'm going to export these individually as their own WAV files. This is the file that we're going to bring over into our sample editors. Now that we've got all of our files exported and sitting in named folders on the desktop, it's time to move to the Nord sample editor. You can see here I've got the Nord sample editor open. This is a free program which is available from Nord's website, and it's the program that we use to generate the files which we can then directly load over into the Nord Stage 3. Let's get started with Matriarch King Saw. So I'm just going to drag and drop our WAV file over here into the sample editor from the desktop, and you can see that the Nord sample editor does an amazing job of detecting which note we were recording and also delegating that sample to particular keys. So really the only thing that we need to do here is to go in and loop these. Right now, if we were to press this key and hold it down, eventually that note would just go away, right? It would stop, because within this range here is included the end of the note. We need to cut that down, and then we need to tell it to loop, and then we need to tell it what part of the sound we want it to loop. So let's listen to this with the loop engaged. So what I'm doing when I determine the cutoff point there is trying to make it sound as even as possible past that point. And to me, that sounds pretty good. Let's move on to our next note. So once again, I'm going to bring this down. And in this case, we see a particular pattern in the note. So I'm going to choose a point where I know I can easily loop it. Then I'm going to turn on the loop, and I'm going to move it to about right there. So we've got this valley being the loop point. So this large sound is going to be the part that loops. Which kind of gives us a more natural sound. All right, let's move on to our next note. Once again, trim and loop. Now we just repeat this process for the other notes which we've recorded. Trim and loop. When we get up to these higher notes, you'll notice that the pattern is cycling so rapidly that it really doesn't matter as much where we set the loop to begin. Great, so that is Matriarch King Saw ready to go. So what I'm going to do here is make sure that the sample is titled correctly, and then I am going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this in the folder that I've created for that purpose. Let's move on to our next sound. So I just go to New, Matriarch Computer Sparks, one of our very first texture sounds that we're bringing into the editor here. And it did a surprisingly good, oh, hang on a second, look at this down here, that ain't right. Okay, so we're going to have some manual work to do here. With this complicated sound, the Nord sample editor wasn't able to detect what the root key of each of these samples is, so we need to go in and assign that manually. This one is C1, we know that's correct, but you'll see that there are two other samples that it thinks also belong in this zone. That is incorrect, so when we get to these samples, we'll need to manually assign the root key. This one's correct, this one is correct, but again, we've got two samples that are not correct, which are there. Hang on a second, that's not right, so it's chosen the wrong sample. So that one is correct. Sample 2 we'll get to when we get to. All right, this one is correct. This one, C2, that's correct. This one is incorrect. This is going to be E2. So we need to go in and manually assign this. All right, now this one is definitely incorrect. That should be G sharp 2. This one needs to be C3. This one needs to be E3. This one needs to be G sharp 3. This one needs to be C4. This one needs to be E4. This one needs to be G sharp 4. This one needs to be C5. Now, I should point out that it makes sense kind of that it's messed this up, because remember, we had multiple octaves playing on every single note for this. So it's understandable that it got it messed up. On a piano, C1 is a very specific like root frequency, but there are also subharmonics and harmonics of that frequency. So since we are manually playing with the subharmonics and the harmonics on a synthesizer, it really matters a little bit less which key is assigned to that sample, as long as it is in fact the correct note, because oftentimes you'll have more than one octave playing in every single key press. Great, so we've got all this fixed. Now it's time to go in and loop our samples. With this one, because it's such a random sound, it doesn't matter quite as much that we try to replicate the pattern of the beat frequency, because there really isn't one. So I'm just going through and I'm looping as much of the sample as possible so that we maintain as much diversity as possible with every sampled recording. Excellent, Matriarch Computer Sparks is ready to go. I'm going to upload not only the Nord file that you can load directly into your Nord, I'm also going to upload the raw audio recording. So you can put this together yourself if you want to, for example, make the sample library a little smaller by utilizing less of these sample recordings. You'd be able to do that. Or if you want to load them into your own sampler and play them on a different digital synthesizer or in your DAW. They're available for you to use, and I hope you enjoy them.